The future of sustainable boating is rapidly approaching. Electrification is taking center stage, but eFuels and hydrogen technology are also looking for a piece of the pie as the boating industry goes green. Electrification and sustainability are finally upending the auto industry and changing the way we move. A group of companies focused on the $19 billion boating market see their industry as next. From small outboard powered boats to massive land yachts of the sea, the global boating industry is expected to swell in the coming years thanks to government subsidies and more interest, not just in leisure, but in all aspects of marine travel. From big players like Brunswick to smaller firms like Candela, the marine industry is going high-tech. These companies are betting on the electric blue wave, which experts say will grow by $4.4 billion, more than doubling sales by 2030. Imagine small to medium-sized boats packing high-powered batteries and motors that create quiet, near-instantaneous power with zero emissions. Then there's eFuels, synthesized fuels that are sustainably produced and carbon neutral when used. eFuels can power anything from your neighbor's Boston whaler to an Exxon tanker ship. And another emerging technology entering the boating market, hydrogen power. It's clean, powerful, and offers range fit for consumer and commercial applications.
All right, so let's break down where things stand right now. We want to bring in James Hardiman. He's Citi Leisure and Travel Analyst. We also have Jeff Wasil. He's Director of Environment, Health, and Safety Compliance for the National Marine Manufacturers Association. Great to see both of you. Jeff, let me start with you. We just heard Pras laying out the growth prospects, what exactly we could see the growth look like in the electric boat industry between now and 2030. In terms of where we are in this transition, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really exciting time in the recreational boating industry right now, and there's a lot going on with technology. We've seen a really huge improvement across all of the boating segments, and we've just completed a really interesting report talking about decarbonization. And I think probably one of the issues that we face as an industry is perception that recreational boating contributes unnecessarily to global climate change and pollution and the rest. As it stands, we account for about 0.7% of transportation CO2 in the United States, and we account for about 0.4% of transportation CO2 in Europe. So small numbers, but nonetheless, everyone needs to do their part to reduce emissions. And we just we just completed nearly a 2-year project working with ICOMIA, which is the International Council of Marine Industry Associations, and Ricardo PLC, which is a very well-respected global engineering firm. And we wanted to look at what's the best way for our industry to decarbonize moving forward. And what we found is it's really a portfolio of technologies. You mentioned a little bit about sustainable marine fuels, electrification, foiling, advanced hull design. Some of these all of these technologies are going to be required to really minimize CO2 from recreational boating, because it is such a very different scenario than what you see happening in the automotive industry.
So Jeff, just to kind of follow up on that report you guys put out, looking at beyond recreational, I know you don't necessarily do work with the commercial side, but do you think stuff like hydrogen or eFuels is good for, let's say, tanker ships and big industrial mass power boats that are on the water for extended periods of time?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. And because of the energy density issue, boats require a lot of energy to move through the water. It's a factor of roughly 10 compared to a car. So to pack that kind of energy density into batteries can be difficult for a lot of the vessels. And like I said, it's not, certainly electrification plays its role, but sustainable marine fuels plays a big role for 2 reasons. Number one, we talk about there's about 12 million registered power boats in the United States today that are going to rely on liquid fuels for quite some time. And the second thing you talk about is on the commercial side, going across oceans with large cargo that requires an enormous amount of energy. So those are really 2 reasons why we'll see liquid fuels and specifically sustainable marine fuels play a huge role in our industry moving forward as well.
James, let's talk about what this means for investors, for those out there who are very interested in maybe betting on this move here as we talk about the transition for electric boats. What companies should investors keep in mind that are leading the charge?
Sure. So, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, boat manufacturer in the world, Brunswick Corporation, from the names that we look at, is certainly at the forefront of electrification. And I think it's still in its very early at this point, and I think all of the marine companies, the marine stocks, are really sort of struggling to get through this macro, whatever this is, headwind downturn. But I think as we look forward further into the future, as we sit here today, there are a number of sort of low voltage power propulsion options. Those are typically going to be for smaller boats. I think as we look out to the future, there's an opportunity to get electrification into some much larger engines, right? The whole concern about battery energy density is certainly an issue today. And so a lot of the propulsion electrification, right? Electric outboard engines are just extremely expensive. We've seen some cool sort of concept vehicles along those lines, but from a consumer perspective, way too expensive today. But the hope is that over the next 5 to 10 years, they'll take up a much bigger chunk of the market.
Hey, James, with the sort of the reach of a bunch of different types of public boating companies, is Brunswick's, is it their size that kind of gives them the advantage? Is it their strategy with autonomous and things like that you like there for them?
For sure. The size helps them. I mean, they have a regular business between their boats, their engine business, and then their parts and accessories, which are sort of the cash cows, right? And that allows to invest in future technologies and ultimately future-proofing their business. And so that's where you're going to see a lot of these investments made in new technologies and certainly this electrification strategy.
Hey, Jeff, a quick follow here about you represent a number of manufacturers in the space, especially in the United States. What are they saying, like manufacturers like Brunswick, but what are they saying about going green? Do they really want to go? Are they reluctant to? Or do they see an opportunity there to sort of have people kind of convert their boats over to cleaner power?
No, I mean, certainly everyone in the industry is really excited about the technologies that we have moving forward. I wanted to come back to a point that you had made earlier about electric propulsion. It's not only the propulsion system that we're talking about. It's, you're starting to see lithium-ion battery banks be used in boats to power what's called the hotel load. So these are your safety systems, your bilge pumps, and lights and things like that. And you're reducing the reliance on a generator as well. So it's not just the propulsion. One point I want to make out that's really important as well is that when you look at what's happening in the automotive industry as it moves more and more toward electrification, a lot of folks think it's exactly the same situation in recreational marine. Here's the difference. What are the majority of cars doing right now across the United States in major cities? They're sitting in traffic. They're being used, okay? If you look at and ask the same question, what are the majority of recreational boats doing right now? They're sitting on standby. They're sitting at marinas. I'm in Chicago. It snowed last week, so my boat's going to be covered up for the next 7 months. So, there's a very big difference when you do a life cycle analysis looking at, what's the best way of minimizing CO2 emissions. You have to take that into account. You have to understand that the usage of the boat is probably one of the smaller impacts in terms of CO2. It's really on the production side. So our industry is employing a lot of folks as chief sustainability officers, managers, to manage sustainability of the boat itself during production, manufacturing, distribution. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the work too. I know a lot of folks just talk about the propulsion system, but there's a ton of work that's going on in the production of these vessels that should be talked about as well when we talk about minimizing CO2 emissions.
So James, in looking at what we just heard just now about the sort of varied interest in terms of propulsion, what do you want to hear from companies when they talk about their conversion? Are they too slow? Are they doing it just right? Is it maybe they should pump the brakes and sort of stick with traditional powertrains just to keep the money flowing into the coffers?
I think they need to do both, right? They need to navigate their way through the current downturn. I think they need to meet consumers where they are, but ultimately prepare for a future in which this battery technology is not only able to create higher horsepower applications that are lighter and don't impact the performance of the boat in a negative way, but also cheaper. And like so many other applications that we've seen, if you are engineering for today, you might never make that investment. But if you can appreciate that so much of this technology is improving at such a fast rate, particularly the battery technology, you will be there when there are some fitting applications from a consumer perspective, and that's only, as I see it, a matter of time. But yeah, I think investors, if companies focused solely on some of these new technologies today, they would probably be losing money, suffice it to say. But certainly, I think there's a place in the investment portfolio, to prepare for that future.
And maybe it's big boats or maybe it's wave runners. We'll see. Electrification is coming soon. So thanks, James Hardiman, Citi Leisure and Travel Analyst, and Jeff Wasil, Director of Environment, Health, and Safety Compliance for the National Marine Manufacturers Association. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
To illustrate Brunswick's stamp on the industry, more than 50% of outboard motors sold in the U.S. are made by their brand, Mercury Marine, huge company there. The company is diving into electric outboard market for the first time, which may help push the growing sector closer to the mainstream. I met up with Mercury's electrification technical manager, Andy Prisbel, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, to get a first-hand look at their Avator line. Check it out. So Andy, looking at this outboard motor, what exactly are the main components or the main features that people will be looking at, and how does it all work?
At first glance, it looks like a standard outboard. This is a little bit different, electrification. We've put a lot of time and effort into designing super efficient prop, which means battery range for people.
And so when we're talking about range, what are we talking about here? Full power, half power?
Avator outboards are rated for 1 hour at the rated power. As soon as you come off of that, it's an exponential curve. So if you're at 75% throttle, it's 3 hours. If you're at 50% throttle, it's close to 4 to 6 hours.
How easy is it to take this thing off a boat and on a boat?
Portability is a big deal in this market segment. There's a latch, you can take the outboard off, tip the tiller handle down, and off you go.
What is the setup they're in right here?
This is our Mercury 7.5E, and it's on our Lund WC12 small aluminum fishing boat. This outboard is a very versatile outboard. It can be put on multiple different vessels.
There's just no sound at all. I'm just drawn by how calm it is, how quiet it is, and sort of like the ease of use, I guess, right?
This will really open up the doors to a new generation, a new type of people that want to experience the water.
Let me give it a try.
Absolutely.
That's backwards. All right, here we go.
How was it? What do you think? Give us your review.
I was surprised at how smooth it is and easy to use. Although I did go into reverse on accident because you got to twist the little knob.
I wasn't going to point that out. I noticed that.
But it's quiet, smooth, good power. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I think the big question for a lot of boaters out there, at least when you talk about the consumer, the individual level, is the power behind that and exactly what that is going to be able to produce. But I love the quiet nature of it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a game changer.
I think for
as well.
ponds and small lakes, it's like perfect. But you're absolutely, if you want that high power, that's going to be a ways away.
It is. All right, Pras, great stuff. Thanks so much.
Thanks.